What if I told you that the simple act of observing can change the outcome of any situation? Sounds impossible, doesn't it? But science has already proven this. Just the simple act of observation alters the behavior of reality. This isn't just a nice motivational phrase. It's a fact studied in quantum physics, one of the most fascinating areas of modern science. And when you understand this, you realize something transformative. You are not a passive spectator of life. You are an active participant, a conscious creator. Now, why is this so important for you? Because it directly influences your choices, your way of perceiving the world, your emotions, and, most importantly, how you manifest desires and results. Today, you're going to discover that this idea is not just theory. It has practical applications that can change your life. What you're about to hear isn't baseless motivational talk. Everything is supported by scientific experiments and research. But I'm going to translate all of this in a simple language so you can understand and apply it. So stay with me until the end because you're going to learn what the observer effect is, why it overturns classical ideas about reality, how it connects to your life, and most importantly, how you can use this knowledge to create better experiences, attract opportunities, and live with more awareness. Shall we begin? The observer effect is a concept that sounds like it came straight out of a science fiction movie, but it's real. It shows that in the quantum world, the act of observing influences the behavior of matter. In other words, things don't exist in a defined way until they are observed. Strange? Yes. After all, we've been taught since childhood to believe that the physical world is solid, fixed, and independent of us. But quantum physics came to challenge that. It all started with a famous experiment, the double-slit experiment. Scientists wanted to understand how subatomic particles, like electrons, behaved. They fired electrons at a barrier with two slits. When no one was observing, the electrons behaved like waves, passing through both slits at the same time and creating an interference pattern, like water waves. This indicated that, in that state, they were not in a single point, but in several possibilities at once. But when scientists placed a detector to observe what was happening, everything changed. The electrons started behaving like solid particles, choosing only one slit. The mere fact of someone observing completely changed the outcome. How is that possible? This phenomenon shook the foundations of classical physics. For centuries, we believed reality existed in a fixed way, independent of our perception. But the experiment showed that, at the quantum level, things exist in a state of potentiality, a field of possibilities, until consciousness intervenes. In other words, reality is not ready, waiting for you. It organizes itself from observation. Does consciousness really influence matter? This is the question that left many scientists intrigued. How can consciousness, something seemingly intangible, influence matter? Physicists like Eugene Wigner and John Wheeler proposed bold hypotheses. Wigner believed consciousness was essential to collapse the wave function, the moment when something stops being just a possibility and becomes concrete reality. Wheeler went even further and spoke of a participatory universe, where the act of observing not only changes the result now, but influences the entire timeline. He said, "No phenomenon is a real phenomenon until it is observed." Sounds complex? Let's simplify. Imagine life as a menu full of options. All possibilities exist, like blank pages waiting for a story, until you choose which one you will experience. Before your decision, everything is just potential. This idea is not just philosophical. Experiments like the delayed choice tests keep confirming that observation influences even when the phenomenon should already have happened. It's as if reality waits for consciousness to define itself. And here's a fascinating point. This doesn't happen only at the quantum level. Neuroscience proves that what you focus on changes the physical structure of your brain, a phenomenon called neuroplasticity. Every time you repeat a thought, you strengthen neural connections that make that pattern more automatic. In other words, Where you place attention, you literally shape your brain. And with that, you influence your decisions, emotions, and actions. Now that we understand the scientific basis, let's move to practical application. What does this mean for you? It means that your attention is a creative tool. Whatever you focus on grows. Want a simple example? Imagine you decide to buy a red car. Suddenly, it seems like there are red cars everywhere. That's not a coincidence. Those cars were always there, but now your mind is programmed to notice them. The same happens with problems and solutions. When you focus too much on problems, your brain starts filtering reality to show you more of the same. It's as if you were telling the universe, "Give me more of this, because this is what I believe in." On the other hand, when you direct your attention to solutions, you activate the reticular activating system, which works like a radar for everything aligned with your focus. And this is where science and spirituality meet. The law of attraction, so often mentioned in personal development, is not just a mystical idea. It's a consequence of what we're explaining. What you observe and resonate with most intensely manifests more easily. You don't create only with physical action, but with conscious attention. That's why people who constantly complain attract more problems, while those who cultivate gratitude seem to live in a greater flow of opportunities. Now comes the practical part. Here are simple but extremely effective techniques to use the observer effect to your advantage. First, practice focused meditation. Set aside 5 minutes a day to quiet your mind and focus on what you want to experience. Imagine collapsing that reality right now. The clearer and more emotionally engaging the image, the more powerful the effect. Second, practice creative visualization. Close your eyes and imagine your goal as if it has already happened. Feel the emotion of living that moment now. Science shows that the brain doesn't differentiate between something real and something vividly imagined with emotion. It's like training for your future. Third, practice observe without judging. This is the essence of mindfulness. When a negative thought arises, don't fight it. Just observe it, as if it were a cloud passing in the sky. This simple act takes away the pattern's strength. Fourth, practice vibrational frequency. Thoughts and emotions are energy. When you vibrate in gratitude, love, and joy, you raise your frequency. This isn't just spirituality. Studies show that positive emotions reduce stress, improve health, and increase mental clarity. Now, a word of caution: don't use these practices with anxiety or urgency, because that reinforces the feeling of lack. Don't force it. The secret is lightness, trust, and repetition. Before we finish, we need to correct some misconceptions. The observer effect does not mean you can simply think about something and it magically appears. That's not it. What it shows is that consciousness influences how reality manifests, but this happens along with aligned actions, choices, and habits. Another myth is thinking you need to be positive all the time. It's not about denying negative emotions, but learning to observe them without clinging to them. To recap, science has proven that the observer influences reality's behavior. At the quantum level, nothing is fixed until observed. This means your attention is a creative act. Where you focus now will determine what you live later. You are not just a spectator of reality. You are an active creator through your observation. And if you enjoyed this content, there are other videos on the channel that dive deeper into these topics: quantum physics, the law of attraction, the power of the mind, and practices to manifest your desires. I'm sure they'll expand your understanding and transform your way of living. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If this video made sense to you, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss upcoming content that will help you create a life with more awareness, abundance, and purpose. See you in the next video.